Hello everyone, my name is Adam with Lakeland CBD Wellness. We are going live here. We are doing an educational seminar at the Big Cypress golf course community here in North Lakeland.
Is first of all the bioavailability. So bioavailability is just really how much you're absorbing versus what you take. So it's just like vitamins, protein supplements. A lot of the time, what you're taking, you're not absorbing 100% of. Your body's going to waste a little bit of that out. So that happens with CBD too. You're not absorbing 100% of what you take. So bioavailability is just how much you absorb versus how much you take. The second thing to really notate that's going to distinguish these products from one another is going to be the onset rate and the metabolization rate. So onset rate is how long it takes to take effect, and then metabolization rate is how long it's going to stay actively in our system and giving us those benefits. So with topicals specifically, bioavailability, there's no conclusive answer on exactly how bioavailable they are. We do see that it could be up to 40% bioavailable. It does hit liver metabolization, which would be a benefit for bioavailability. It's not transdermal, so it's not going to reach your bloodstream. So somebody who is trying to stay away from full spectrum products internally sometimes could get away with taking a full spectrum topical because they're not going to have to worry about that THC entering their bloodstream. Topicals take effect typically within a good 10 to 20 minutes, last 2 to 4 hours, really 2 to 3 hours. Topicals can be really, really nice if you just, if maybe you're not in pain all the time, but you've just got a shoulder that bothers you when you golf, you can slap that topical on right before you go golfing. It'll last you, through your afternoon. You can even apply after as well. That's the really nice thing about topicals. You don't have to worry about taking too much. You can apply several times a day if you needed to. The thing to keep in mind is topicals are not systematic, so they are only going to work on the area where you put them. I would say that's really the only downside to topicals is you're really only going to get that one spot. So if you have pain in several places, if you suffer from arthritis and you have inflammation, arthritic pain in several places, a lot of the time an internal method is going to be better because you're not going to have to be putting that topical all over. Because A, you're just going to go through it very quickly, and B, you're going to spend a lot of time every single day putting that topical all over. Anything to add for topicals?
Just a little tip when going out to golf or doing any activity around. If you want to use a topical, apply before you introduce stress to your body. So before you go work out, before you go run, or
Yeah, so use it before the strenuous activity.
That way, it's going to start to reduce the inflammation before you introduce the inflammation. Right. So it's just a little bit of tip if you kind of use the topical, and then use it afterwards. That's going to complement the stretching that you just did, the exhaustion of the muscles.
And with topicals, we'll get into dosing in a little bit. So the thing with dosing is low and slow. But with topicals, you can get away sometimes with using a little bit more. You can play around with topicals a lot. It's not internal, so that is the benefit. The next thing we got is sublinguals. So a sublingual is going to be these CBD oils that you're seeing everywhere. Sublingual means that you're going to dose that product up under your tongue. You have glands under your tongue that are really highly vascular. So those veins pick up the CBD and other cannabinoids very, very quickly and introduce it into your system very, very quickly. Compared to eating something, you have to digest it. So we see sublinguals take effect in about 15 to 30 minutes roughly, and they typically last about 4 to 6 hours. The thing with sublinguals is they are high bioavailability compared to edibles. So sublinguals are about, I think it's like 20 to 40% bioavailable. They are systematic, so again, if you've got pain in several places, would be a wonderful way to introduce CBD into your life. They do make oils that are nano-emulsified as well. So if you're, if you've got finicky taste buds, Or if you just don't like dosing sublingually, you could mix those nano-emulsified products into something that is liquid because it makes it water soluble. So you could put it in juice or coffee or tea, you could put it in food, something like that. And they're typically going to be suspended in either hemp oil, MCT oil. We see a lot of olive oil. There's not a huge difference. I get a lot of questions, does it matter what oil base my product is in? I don't really think so. You'll see some companies use hemp oil. Just because you see a product has hemp oil, by the way, doesn't mean that it necessarily has CBD. A lot of companies are using that as a marketing tactic right now. They'll put, made with hemp oil on it, and they're getting more sales that way. But just because something has hemp doesn't mean it has CBD. The CBD is coming from hemp oil, but you can't extract that CBD outside of the hemp oil and have just a bare hemp oil. But some do use hemp oil, grapeseed oil, MCT oil. Some companies just choose to do one thing over the other due to flavor. A hemp oil base is nice because you can get a lot of the natural terpenes from the plant. Terpenes are just molecules that make up like the scent profile, but they actually have an interaction with these cannabinoids as well, and they can give you benefit as well. So I like a hemp oil base. Everybody's a little bit different. Edibles are up next. So edibles, surprisingly, are only about 4 to 20% bioavailable. So they are one of the least bioavailable methods of CBD you can take. But huge benefit is the metabolization rate is pretty long. So it does take about 45 minutes to an hour and a half, roughly. It really depends on if you have anything on your stomach or not to take effect. But then it lasts a good 6 to 8 hours. So if you've got a plane ride or something that's really, really long, and you're not looking to dose several times in between, the edibles are your way to go. And these come in so many different forms. I mean, you can get gummies, you can get lozenges, there's chocolate, tea, there's, the edibles possibilities are endless. So everybody has preferred methods. There's mints as well. Anything you'd like to hit on with edibles? Yeah, edibles are really, really popular. I think people like to take them because there's not so much stigma. If you pop a candy at the airport, nobody knows what you're doing. They think that you're just taking a lozenge. It can be a really discreet way to take it if you are ever worried about that. Or if you just don't like doing the hemp oil and you're looking for an internal method, edibles can be kind of a tastier route to go, to be honest with you. We've got suppositories up next, which we get a lot of eyebrows raised over, but hear me out. Suppositories are a very direct way to treat specific issues. Prostate cancer, menstrual issues, hemorrhoids. It can be used to help with MS, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. It can be a very direct input method. Bioavailability with these suppositories is very high. I think, Aaron, is 80%? Yeah, so these are very high bioavailability. You're absorbing most of what you're taking. So there is a huge benefit to taking these suppositories. Not for everybody, I understand, but they can be used for very specific things. We've got, I think what kind of base do they normally use for these suppositories?
Coconut.
Coconut, so MCT oil.
MCT, like a coconut fatty. And there's different versions of it. Like if you're a younger lady dealing with menstrual cramping, you can use it for vaginal insertion, but the pH has to be perfect. Otherwise, you're going to hurt some things. So just because it says suppositories, you do need to make sure that it's rectal and vaginal or one or the other before inserting anything. Clean hands. If you're doing anything, clean your hands. Make sure you do everything by the book so we're not introducing other bacteria into that situation. But we do have a lot of people that have like colon cancer that has high TSA counts, that's reducing those TSA counts.
Yep.
So great feedback on that. After pregnancy, you guys don't have to deal with that anymore, but it's great for like pelvic pain, things like that, localized, anything where you really want to pack a punch to the organ as suppository is the way to go.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of girls try to use just like topicals kind of in their abdominal area to help with cramps and things too, but suppositories seem to be a better method for sort of relieving any kind of pain or discomfort you have there. Next we'll move on to inhalants. So inhalants is going to be smoking, vaping, Smoking and vaping get a lot of flack, understandably, but they are very high on the range of bioavailability. So smoking and vaping is typically between somewhere 30 to 60% bioavailable. So you're getting a lot of what you are taking. Another benefit to smoking and vaping is that it is almost immediate onset. So within a minute to 3 minutes, you're going to get those effects very quickly. So somebody who's dealing with a seizure disorder can help stop that very, very quickly. We have people who use it for PTSD when they get attacks. You can use that and you're going to get that onset very, very quickly. You don't have to wait 45 minutes or an hour and a half for your edible to kick in. You don't have to wait, 5, 10, 20 minutes for your sublingual to kick in. The smoking and the vaping is going to be very instant. That being said, it really only lasts a good 2 to 3 hours, max efficiency, to where it's actively in your system. And there's different forms of this. So vaping, you can get cartridges, there's disposable cartridges. Smoking is typically going to be in some kind of wrap. And there is hemp flower now as well. That's fully legal, so we'll see that sometimes. Looks the same, it's not the same, it's going to be very high CBD, so you're going to get more of those inflammatory, anti-inflammatory properties, things like that a lot of the time. So, yep.
Inhalation is one of those things, it does have the old stigma of rolling it up, let's go smoke a spliff, let's go smoke a joint, things like that. But they also do make it where you can do like nebulizers. Now there's a lot of kids, respiratory people who have to have a nebulizer. It's essentially the same thing. It's an inhalation, low temperature vapor. So you can't roll one up. You can put in these vapors, which are nice little tools that are battery powered, user friendly. So a lot of inhalations will outweigh the risk of what people think. Oh, if I'm smoking, it's not a cigarette. There's not a lot of tar to it. So for your lungs, it's not really harmful. At a high temperature, yes, it's harmful, but vaping keeps it at a low temperature. And same thing if you were smoking a joint. If you're smoking the actual flower, you get the most benefits from it because you have the phytocannabinoids, you have the cannabinoids that are in it, and you have all the terpenes, all natural. Nothing's been extracted. It's just how Mother Nature gave it to you. So don't be scared. You're ex-smokers, things like that. We do have people that smoke cigarettes that transition from cigarettes by using this as a tool, and then now they don't smoke cigarettes. So it does crave that urge, and it's much healthier for some of these other things that they're doing. And it is fast acting, like she mentioned. The downside is it doesn't last very long. So every couple of hours, you're probably vaping. Most people keep it in their, the pocketbook, in a backpack. However you can keep it on you. You can go on planes with them. You can go into theme parks with them. So it is convenient. And people who deal with high anxiety, perfect thing for them.
Yeah, that
you never know when you're going to be introduced stress. And then just to pick that up and a quick little puff, which is not harmful to you, can get that relief very, very fast.
Ex-smokers, we're having a lot of ex-smokers who are using the vapes to stop smoking. Again, it's not the best thing. The best thing would not to be introducing anything into your lungs, but they are using it to get off of cigarettes, and we're seeing a lot of success with that. And like you said, anxiety, you can't get that instant uptake. So if you're in, an anxious situation, it can just be a very quick dosing method. So dosing is actually what we're going into next. Starting to kind of delve into the world of CBD, it can be really overwhelming. There's a lot of information. If you just Google CBD, there's so many different articles that pop up with 10 different titles and from where to buy the best CBD, what best CBD formulas exist, what should you look for. It can be very confusing. And then even from there, just starting to take products yourself, figuring out that dosing can be pretty confusing. We don't really see a set height to weight ratio right now as far as dosing goes. It's really seeming to depend on sort of the condition that you're dealing with, how bad it is. Average dose, I would say, lays between a good 10 to 25 milligrams for an adult. But if you are somebody who deals with like chronic pain or something that's really debilitating or something really nasty, a lot of the times we do see that you're higher on that spectrum, so you might be taking 25 milligrams or even much more than that per dose. The really beautiful thing about cannabis in general is there's no known LD50. You're not going to overdose on your CBD product. It's literally not possible. Play around with dosing a little bit, but the average, or I guess the rule that we say is start low and slow. So that's kind of across the board, no matter what CBD product you're starting with. For beginners, I always say something that's maybe less than 1,000 milligrams per ounce is a good starter dose. You're not taking something way too high. Frequently, we have people start off on really high doses, and they'll stick with that thinking they need it. But CBD is kind of like anything else. It can take time to really build up in your system before you're noticing the full benefit of it. It can take up to 4 weeks before you're getting full benefit out of your CBD product. So pick a low dose. So maybe just start with 5 milligrams 2 or 3 times a day, and stick with that for a good week before you decide to move up from that. Our slide here tells you, begin with a fourth of a dropper, but every single CBD product ranges so much in the concentration and how they dose that. So you can get a bottle that's 3,000 milligrams. A quarter of a dropper of that is going to be 25 milligrams. You can get a 750 milligram bottle, and you're only going to get about 6 milligrams out of that quarter dropper. So that can be a huge difference. But start low and slow. I would start with about 5 or 10 milligrams if you're new to CBD, 2 or 3 times a day. And give that some time to work before you decide to go up in dose. We always tell people, you know you better than I know you. So it can be really, really easy to keep just, a notebook or something where we rate, either our pain or our anxiety or whatever it is on a scale of 1 to 10 while you're taking CBD. Also notate how much CBD you're taking every day, and just daily, rate on your scale how you're doing, how much CBD you took. This can be a really, really easy way to kind of figure out what dosing might be right for you. Let's say you're taking 5 milligrams twice a day for a week. You don't really notice much. You think it might be helping, but your knees are really bothering you, and you still got some back pain. I would probably move up to about 10 milligrams twice a day. And it could just be that you're not taking it enough. Like if you're only taking a sublingual once a day, that only lasts in your system actively 4 to 6 hours. So of course you can probably expect back pain at the end of the day if you've only taken it in the morning. So that's important too. That's why bioavailability and onset rates are important, because you want to know how long that's lasting. You want to know how often you need to take it. So with sublinguals, you are probably, if you're looking to take it daily, if this is a regimen you're looking to start to get rid of pain, inflammation, those sorts of things, I would recommend taking a sublingual at least 2 to 3 times a day. With edibles, you're probably going to want to take at least twice a day. But that really ranges. That's where it can be really helpful to reach out to a CBD coach. Because we're CBD coaches specifically, but so that's what we specialize. We specialize in helping people figuring out what the right product for them is, what the right formula for them is, how to take that product, how to find their right dosing. So you're not alone in it. I know that it seems really complicated and kind of convoluted, but we're here to help for that reason. The next few slides we've got, I just wanted to stress the importance of purchasing a quality CBD product. They did a study a couple of years ago on CBD products on the market, and a huge portion of them did not contain the amount of CBD in them that they were supposed to. And we're seeing that a lot. There's companies that are getting sued. So this is a third-party lab result. That is a lab test done by a third-party company on a CBD product. So these CBD manufacturers will make the product, send it to a third-party lab. Those third-party labs are what we're looking at, okay? If you're ever buying CBD, ever, you should be able to ask the seller, can I see a third-party lab result for that? Do you have third-party lab results for that? If they don't know what you're talking about, or if they're unwilling to show you a third-party lab result, that should be a red flag. These third-party labs are really important for that. They tell us a lot of information. These are what tell us if your product is a legitimate product or not. They're going to tell us if it has as much CBD in it as it says it does. So you're not going to have to worry about, does my 250 milligram bottle only have 25 milligrams in it? So it can be kind of tricky to read if you're not used to reading labs. Did you want to point some stuff
Yeah, I
out?
just want to point out a few things. I don't know if you can hear me up there, but the main things you want to look about, these are your cannabinoids. This is what is in it, what's the percentage. So here we can see that it has CBD in it, and then the amount of CBD all the way down to the milligram. But we also want to look to make sure that there's no other solvents that are in there, like ethanol.
Yeah, it'll do pesticide testing a lot of the time, solvents. Some of these lab results will show you if there's any terpenes in them. They tell you a lot of important information, really important information. This is going to be the difference between somebody selling it out of a gas station and having, a reputable CBD company. You're going to see from somebody who's reputable, they're going to be willing to show you these things. If you're buying it out of a gas station or out of a corner store, they're really not going to know anything about that product. Yes, ma'am?
How often do they test the products?
Every batch.
Every batch, yeah, every batch. Because you have to think about it, every batch could be slightly different. You're using different hemp, like literally different hemp plants. So you do get different variations slightly. So they are tested between batches, and that's really, really important as well. Because you could get a first batch that's perfect, is what it's supposed to, and then a few batches down the line that like something's off. So it is really important to test those per batch.
Right, we are dealing with nature, so plants do adapt, humidity, how much rain did we have, how much food did we feed it, how much light. So those play a vital role on what the cannabinoid profile is. This specific one is what we call the full spectrum. So if you can look at the top, you can see that there is THC, right?
No, it's kind of hard to read there, but there is.
Law enforcement probably would buy this one. Someone who's in a lot of pain would probably do a full spectrum. And you can see that there's THC in there. You can see that there's CBD. We have CBD. But then we also have other cannabinoids like CBG. We don't have no CBN on this one because it wasn't converted. And you have a little bit of CBC. And all of those have their own uniqueness to it. So this would be a true full spectrum.
Yeah,
Even though it doesn't have every bit of it, it's still a full spectrum primarily because it has the THC in it.
That's another thing that we used to see a lot, and companies seem to be fixing this now. A lot of them do, but mismarketing as far as what kind of formula it is. Companies would market 0 THC and then put full spectrum on it. That's kind of confusing, isn't it? If full spectrum means there's inherently THC. Or they would put, 0 THC product, but it is a full spectrum product. Or they would market full spectrum for a broad spectrum product, so you're not really getting that THC. These lab results will tell you if it is full spectrum, broad spectrum, isolate, unless they're patented sometimes. I know like Charlotte's Web has a patented product, so they'll only tell you THC and CBD content, but then you know at least if it's, a full spectrum or maybe an isolate or a broad. Yeah, we just, next couple slides. Are just going to be pesticide, I think some solvent testing, but I did just want to touch on third-party labs. If you're not sure about a product, if you're looking to maybe purchase something, just ask the seller, do you have lab results, third-party lab results on this? And that should be a really clear indicator of the quality of that product.
You want to also make sure, as of June, with the 2020, now you have to have a permit in Florida to sell. So, they don't have a permit, that means they probably don't have labs backing it up. We have them come down to our store, they'll buy random products and they'll go and test it. If it doesn't test and it doesn't pass, we have to pull it. We haven't had to pull anything yet, but this is what they're looking at. This is what the state is looking at. No pesticides, can't have any pesticides in it. It has to be as organic as possible. No heavy metals, no residual solvents, plus your cannabinoids. So you want to make sure it's not just the cannabinoids, it's the full picture of the test that makes it an actual passable product. A lot of people will leave a lot of acetone and stuff in there. A lot of ethanol will be left in there. Or they just have a lot of pesticides trying to get rid of the pests while they're growing the plant. So they'll go in and they'll spray the entire greenhouse. Technically, it all failed. They just wasted it. If they didn't pull that test, yeah, they can sell it on the black market. They can sell it at a flea market, swap shop, anything like that. It would be passable. But in a store, professional location, we do get tested. We do have to hold that permit and keep those higher standards. So even if you're looking and you're buying online, a lot of places will say down on the bottom, view lab results. You want to make sure that that is on there, and it's also being tested by an ISO lab. That's a certified lab by the FDA, who oversees all the testing, make sure it's calibrated and everything correctly. And they'll normally always put a signature on the bottom if you have one. So like down on the bottom here, you have a signature that's been signed off and a date. And on top of it is the batch number. So you have the batch number that's on the top, the date that it was ran, and all products do have an exit. They do expire. So a 2-year shelf life. In Florida, they want to keep it to that 1 year. So
Yeah.
every year, if that batch has been sitting on the shelf, after 1 year, it has to be disposed.
There are 4 things that you can look for on products if you're out and about and you see CBD. You'll know that they're a licensed seller most likely if they have these 4 things. So every product has to have an expiration date on it, a batch number. It's normally batch number, lot number on it. It has to have a QR code which links to third-party lab results, and it has to have a disclaimer on it stating that this product does not exceed 0.3% THC. So if you do see those 4 things on that product, you know that there's probably a reputable seller because they're doing what they're supposed to. More than likely, they're going to be licensed if they do have all of those labeling on the products. So we did want to open up the floor the last few minutes to questions. If there's anything specific that you guys that maybe we missed.
Can you go over those 4 things again?
It should have a batch number or lot number, same thing, an expiration date on it with, typically it's about a year.
As long as it's not sitting out in the daylight. Heat will change your compounds. So if somebody is sitting out at a flea market in a hot car, I can tell you right now that product's already ruined.
Yeah,
Within a few minutes.
Or you could take something more preventative long term as well. Yes, ma'am?
How do the costs run? I have no idea.
We see, there's samples and little things that you can purchase that would be like 1 serving for a couple bucks. You can always get, gummies, or like we sell CBD living water. That's a really, really good way of getting CBD and water into your system, by the way, is that CBD living water. That's like $3.99. You get 10 milligrams, it's nano-emulsified. We generally see oils ranging from starter doses starting at about 20, 25 bucks. Move upwards. You can have really high concentrations of several thousand milligrams for over 100 bucks. It can get a couple $100 bucks. But typically we see it ranging between about $25 to maybe $100, which is a lot to invest in a product. That's why we say if you're starting something new, start low and slow. And know what you're getting into before you buy it, because you can invest a lot of money in these products. So you don't want to waste too much money on something that's not going to be very good for the issue that you're dealing with specifically. Yes, ma'am?
You had asked if anybody was thinking about using it. My cousin and her husband live in this community, and I had to write this down, you may have never heard of it, progressive supranuclear palsy, PSP. There's nothing they can do for him, and I think it's in the realm of Parkinson's. He doesn't have
Yes.
shaking or anything.
Okay.
His brain does not send the message to his muscles.
Yeah, I know that's like a neurological issue. Typically, it's an issue with like communication. Full spectrum. I would definitely recommend full spectrum products. So something with the trace amounts of THC. Anecdotally, issues that have been maybe similar to that, full spectrum. What kind of dosing would you say would be good to start with that?
Still low and slow.
Yeah, so maybe just still start 10 milligrams a dose, but something full spectrum for sure. He could try like a CBD isolate, but I think a full spectrum. You're going to target multiple receptors that way. He could get more benefit out of that.
Have you ever had anyone with MS? I know that's not what
Yes.
he has, but
Yes, very, very common use CBD with symptoms, with several things, but MS is a huge, huge one.
One of our lines is called Thermu. The owner and founder of it has MS. And that's he founded the company just for that. He uses a topical. It's an isolate CBD base only, and he microdoses.
Yeah. So, and if they have any questions too, you guys always feel free to reach out to us. So we're Lakeland CBD Wellness. We are located downtown Lakeland. We do have a storefront, but we do have a heavy presence online. So we have our website. It's lakelandcbdwellness.com. We do have a live chat feature on our website as well. So if you had any questions, or if anyone ever has any questions, you can always just go to our website. There's a live chat in the little bottom right box. So you can just chat with us on there. Even if you just want some information, or you just have some questions, that's always an option. We do have social media, so we have Facebook. You can message us on Facebook Messenger, give us a call. If you ever have any questions about CBD or any other cannabinoids. I don't know if anybody needs the phone number for the store, but I do have that. We might have some cards too.
It's on the cards that I gave you guys.
Yeah, and we do senior discount, we do military discount, veteran discount. If you're a healthcare worker, we offer 10% off. We're doing 10% off for essential workers right now as well. So if you know any essential workers, we're doing 10% off. Yeah, do we have any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
Does flour need to be used with a vapor? Or is that kind of different?
Unless you're really, because you could cook with flour, but you would really have to know a lot about cannabis to be able to do that to begin with. So flour is mostly, you're gonna want to smoke it. That's gonna be the I guess the.
You can get certain accessories, devices that you can bake flour.
Yeah.
What they call a dry flour bake pen. And you just put it in there, and it heats it up in a little coil, and then it just bakes.
Yeah, there's products like the Backpack or CFX. You just put the dry flour. You don't need to do anything to it. You don't roll it up. You literally just grind up the flour. You put the flour in there, heats it up, and it vaporizes it for you. So it makes it really, really simple. And it can be a better way to get that in, compared to smoking it. If you were to, roll it up in paper and smoke it. So.
But it doesn't have a very long life.
Yeah, so it's only going to last actively in your system between 2 to 4 hours. So we say 3 hours is like a good sweet spot. It's typically when it starts to kind of wear off. It's not very long. It's just quick metabolization. The quicker, that's something you can keep in mind.